Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Greetings, race fans, and welcome to Apex Racing TV's coverage of the Radical Esports Cup. JR Gregory here on the call. Beside me in the commentary booth, as always, my partner, Racing Ron Mons, and in the production carrier, our friend and colleague, Joshua Wilkie, the star of the show, the Radical SR10, 425 horsepower, only 725 kilos, with no traction control and no BS. And folks, we are broadcasting today, as we do every Friday at 2100 GMT, the top split of the iRacing public server. So not a league race, not a private race. This is a race that anybody can come and join. So we would encourage you, if this looks like fun to you, and I assure you it is, to pop in and give these fantastic cars a whirl. Mastering this car will make you better at every car that you drive. Our upcoming schedule is going to include fantastic iconic tracks such as Laguna Seca, Spa, Sebring, Road Atlanta, Monza, Mount Panorama, and more. So here we are, round two. This is the Nürburgring, folks, the green hell itself, and this track, for obvious reasons, always circled on the calendar of every racer. It is a very special feeling to grid up here, and it is a special accomplishment to master this track. Opened in 1927, the Nürburgring is in the shadow of the Nürburgring Castle in the Eifel Mountains in Germany. The last F1 race, of course, 1977. Our track configuration today is 20 kilometers, or almost 13 miles, and 154 corners. Our race lap record in this config is a 6:25 set by Stefan Beloff in a Group C Porsche 956. And as often the case here, I have talked a little bit too long. We're going to jump right into the starting grid here. You see Philip Vandenherk, a long-time competitor here on pole. Rafael Blanco beside him in the first row. My goodness, Ron, and how many times have we seen these two fighting it out at the very end of the race? The next row, McCutcheon and Lamba, Walters and Andreas Friedrich, a couple of longtime competitors in 5 and 6. Akimir and Marshall in 7 and 8. Jacobs and May. Martina Ward and Leah Anderson side by side there in 11 and 12. In the next row, Woodward and Brulin, Seawarts and Baril, During and Galis, and our green will catch up with the rest of it later. And there goes Vandenherk with Blanco sniffing around behind, and McCutcheon behind him. and here comes the jinx, a clean start, I was gonna say, and we've got to pile up early on here in that very difficult low speed second gear left hand bend. That requires a lot of patience, and man, what a drag to have contact and potentially damage here in the early going. And my goodness, Ron, once again, that intro was a little too long. You didn't get your 2 cents in, but as we dash down the hill here on lap 1, what are you expecting to see today at the Green Hell?
Well, I think we're expecting chaos. We've already seen it, but I also think we're going to see a lot of drivers slipstreaming past each other. We have that massive back straightaway to close off this lap. We've seen plenty of passes there in the past, and I think we'll see plenty more of it today. These cars can usually go about 10 to 15 miles an hour quicker when they have that slipstream, so I think that will play a big role by the time we reach lap 4 and near the checkered flag. But right now, it's a very good start for Philip Vandenherk, and I nearly got deja vu to a few seasons ago where he spun towards the start of the race. He had a very big tail-out moment coming out of turn 1, but thankfully he's kept it clean so far, as holding a lead over Rafael Blanco just barely, about 0.4 of a second separating him.
All right, and we have gotten through the first about quarter of the track. That's that critical Ehrenberg low-speed right-hander heading down the hill now, and not a lot of shuffling in the top 10. It's Vandenherk from Blanco, from McCutcheon, Walters, Lamba, Friedrich, Marshall, May. Leah Anderson has moved up 3 to sneak into the top 10, and Martina Ward behind Leah there will round out your top 10. And here we go through this slowest corner on the track as we prepare to make our way into the middle section of the course.
Now, this middle section, I feel like many other sections of this circuit, is really one for survival. I think all these drivers, especially with the dirty air that they're feeling off the back of the cars ahead of them, I think these drivers are just realizing they need to keep it on the road at this section of the track, which is very narrow, very prone to making mistakes. I think all these drivers are going to take it easy, especially on lap 1 here. This track is massive, as you said, 13 miles long. These drivers are saying about 6.5-minute lap times here in qualifying, so I think in the race they're definitely going to be a lot longer here, and they really need to keep their focus as strong as they can on keeping those cars on the road, because to finish first you have to finish, and at a track like this and a race like this, that doesn't ring truer.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, pretty clean start there. I'm not sure who we lost there at the very beginning, looking back through my timing tower here. Gosh, it could have been Ekimir that started in 7th and has dropped 8 positions. That's really the only precipitous drop I'm seeing on the grid at the moment. And here's a nice look at the back section here where the track opens up a little bit, and we are going to take this right-hander, which is critical to get a good exit here. This is going to go into the Kesselchen portion of the track. It looks twisty, but functionally it is a straightaway. These cars are flat out, and as Ron said, we're going to see some drafting action here and potentially overtakes into Moot Curve. We'll see how they want to play it here on the first lap.
They're going to be flat out right till here, a small little crack out of the throttles. We're following Rafael Blanco, following Philip Vandenherk just barely. You can see the gap between those two is less than a car length, but you can see a pretty big curb back there for Philip Vandenherk when he went nearly into the braking zone. So he managed to extend that gap a little bit, but you can see that gap is still fairly small between those two. I don't think we're going to see an attempt at an overtake. Certainly you'd have to be a madman to try and attempt an overtake here coming into the carousel. Right now, Rafael Blanco, what he needs to do is he needs to realize that he has a very fast car right now. I believe he won here back in season 3 of 2023. So Rafael Blanco is always a speedy driver at this track. We haven't seen him. We didn't see him last week at the Red Bull Ring, but right now he's putting on a pretty good performance right now, and I think he has the fastest car on track, but McCutcheon right behind him. He's managed to keep track of these two right ahead. He's in a very good position right now. He's a camera car of this fight, and I think if those two come to blows, I think he'll be able to pick up the pieces. But meanwhile, further behind, you can see a big train of cars here. We're following Jacob Reed currently in P12. He is in the middle of a massive fight here. You can see 3 cars up the road, and he is feeling really racy right now, doing a little bit of lawn mowing there down the inside. But right now, fairly clean start. Knowing my luck, I probably jinxed it, but we also have some good racing all throughout this field.
Yeah, and what a treat for you here today, folks. If you're not familiar with this series, Philip Vandenherk, Rafael Blanco, and John McCutcheon are 3 of the absolute fastest radical drivers, some of the best esports drivers in the world. And as Ron said, about 9/10 separating all 3 of those cars here. And we are going to see some good dicing between those 3 before this one's over. We're only on lap 1 of 4, and I'm already excited to see what's going to unfold on that back straightaway.
Yeah, I think one thing that we might see is a move here from Jacob Reed on Robert Woodward. You can see him polishing the bumper of that Radical SR10 as he's following him going through this very twisty section of the course. We're going to hit that straightaway soon, and we're focusing on Jacob Reed there, and he has managed to put together a fantastic race so far. He's up 7 positions so far, so running in P12 as we speak, but I think it'll definitely change by the time we hit the start-finish line. This straightaway that these drivers are about to hit is so long that we've seen in the past a driver will start this straightaway in the lead, get overtaken and move down to P2, and then re-overtake the driver to move back into first, but the straightaway is just so long here. You can see Philip Vanden Herk grazing about 162 miles an hour going down the back straightaway, but you can see Blanco closing. You can see the closing rate. The slipstream is so important, but I think Rafael Blanco, I think he was playing a bit cautious, but certainly McCutcheon ain't. You can see him going side by side there and getting the move done to take the lead of the race as we're about to start lap 2 here. That was a brilliant move there. He is not pulling any punches right now.
McCutcheon getting a twofer there. Oh my goodness. And you saw that speedometer, right? This is maybe the only track where these radicals are going to hit terminal velocity of 160 plus when they finally run out of power from that EcoBoost 4-cylinder turbo and kind of hit a wall of air that prevents them from going any faster. But man, that's one of the great things about Nordschleife here as we see a turn here. Oh my goodness. We're losing somebody. That was Brulin crashing out of, boy, it must have been about 13 or 14 there. Gets some wall action, and the car is a little wiggly coming out of that. I'm not sure if he has taken damage or not. Got a little replay on that here. They're coming off the back straight into this early section, and he may have, a little too much throttle. That's a low speed right-hander there, probably second gear, and after going tickling 170 miles an hour, it's a little painful to go super slow through those first couple of corners, which is absolute requirement of patience to get through that first tight section in second gear.
These cars are really downforce dependent, so when they're at those low speeds, it can really cost you badly. Unfortunately for Brulin, he makes a very easy mistake to make there at the final corner, and you can see that was a very sketchy moment there for Mike Ekmer, currently running in P14. He had a massive moment there, nearly did some lawn mowing, and he actually had some big moments further behind. You can see Ben Jacobs now in P15 trying to get the move done here. You can see him following this fight. You can see some scrapping between the 3 cars up the road, and I just want to make a quick little note of the point that I mentioned last lap. You can see now that Reed has moved up into the top 10, so he managed to get past a couple more cars, but Ben Jacobs right now, you can see him sawing at the wheel, trying to maintain the grip that this car has. This car is also, it doesn't really respond too well to the bumps, which at a track like this will definitely bite you. It certainly bit me when I was doing some laps here at this track with this car earlier, and it's certainly been a driver up the road. You can see some off-road action there. Went down the inside, so I think he's definitely going to pick up a slowdown, so we're going to see Ekmer, I believe. Is that Ekmer? Yes, it is. So Ekmer is going to lose a few positions and drop down to P15 and probably drop down a little bit more time as well, just trying to serve that slowdown. The slowdowns are really important. The off tracks are important here too. With so many corners, there's so many opportunities to go off the road, and also plenty of opportunities to pick up those incident points, which could lead to a penalty.
And to pick up on your point, Rod, Jacob Reed is up 9 positions today, driving out of the UK. And my goodness, a lot of times we see people pick up kind of cheap ones due to crashes and whatnot. I don't think that was the case with Reed. He has been making some legitimate moves here at the Green Hell, and that is not easy in these radicals and this kind of tight and difficult track. Sometimes hard to find a place to put a nose in, and Reed picking up another one. Oh my goodness, he is cooking. And speaking of cooking, if I could just briefly mention our fast lap at this point appears to be up front with John McCutcheon, who has put down a 6:21.87. Folks, that is flying, and I would not be surprised at all to see some maybe 19s in this one. Ron, what do you think?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I will say only 2 laps that these drivers had in qualifying, and in those 2 laps, these cars really struggled to build up the tire temperature, so I think it will help them. Meanwhile, we have Brulin making a fantastic move there around the outside to move up into P21. But getting back to the point that I was going to mention, in this 4-lap race, the tires are getting firmly up to temperature here, so I think we might see some more representative lap times and better lap times than we saw in qualifying. You can see some tough sling here right outside the top 10. That was some very edgy stuff there as they went through the back section of the circuit. But I think the point you mentioned there of getting into the 6-man 19 brackets, I don't think we'll get that far, but I think we could definitely see some drivers crack the 6-minute 20 barrier, which is still a flying lap at this track. It is still, you're going guns blazing to set a lap time like that. These cars are uber fast, really competitive, and it's great. This car has gotten a lot better as the seasons go on. There's a little bit of a bad rep with this car, but that bad rep, as far as I'm concerned, is gone. We had 73 entries, 4 splits. Obviously, we're following the top split here with 22 drivers. There is a new life bred into the series, and I really like it because these cars race like an absolute dream. It's fantastic for us as broadcasters to cover this series, and as drivers, these cars drive like absolute dreams as well. So really, it's a driver's car. Anyone watching this, if you have a C-Class license here in iRacing, hop into these cars because they are a dream to race, a dream to watch, and for us, for myself and JR, I think they're also a dream to cover.
And that is absolutely the case. And meanwhile, back up front, look at Hutchinson, Vandenherk, and Rafael Blanco still separated by 0.8. And my goodness, there is going to be some dicing before this one is over. And I got to second what Ron said about these cars. Never drove one until I began calling these races here on Apex Racing TV. And they are absolutely fantastic cars. You can drive them quickly, pretty easily. They've got a lot of grip, they've got great road feel, and are really fun to drive. But to drive them the way these guys are driving them, I'll tell you what, Ron, to put down a 621, you are not driving these cars in a hooked up manner. They are sliding around every corner and using their alien inhuman reflexes to keep these things from turning. That is just absolutely flying. I can't even begin to describe.
And the best part about those lap times is all these drivers are pretty much running the exact same setup. This is a fixed setup series, so these drivers can't set up the suspension. They can't tune these cars. All they really have to manage with is just the tire pressures and the brake bias. So that's really all they have to work with. But these drivers get so much pace out of these cars. You got to imagine if this wasn't a fixed setup series, it would have been even better. So you can see Rafael Blanco. We've got some racing up towards the front. Herc has now jumped McHutchinson, and McHutchinson is now dropping back in. Now Blanco, is he going to look for the move? No, he's in a little bit of bump drafting. You can see 163 as he hit the back of Herc's bumper there. It just shows you how quick these cars are with that slipstream there. But I believe McHutchinson might have tried to go for a move farther behind, but you can see the action that we haven't really covered in this race. A small little battle forming here between Friedrich and Lamba there. We haven't really covered too much of these, but the driver's running in P4 and P5 right now, running very close. This is extremely close, about 6 cars that you can cover with a blanket here going into the final series of corners. I'm surprised there hasn't been an accident here. This was a pack that we saw an incident with last lap, so we'll see if all these drivers can get through this final corner cleanly this time. I believe they all did, but the point that we mentioned just briefly as we saw that action up towards the front of the field, the fact that these cars are pulling about 173, 174 miles an hour as there's contact farther behind with a driver going off. I believe that was Ekmer and May that made contact, with May being the unfortunate recipient of that and hitting the wall. But those drivers going 174 miles an hour down that back straightaway just shows you how important it is to have that slipstream.
Wow, and that wild action between Ekmer and May, and there is some salty exchanges going on over iRacing comms. Definitely some contact there, and someone not happy about the space or lack thereof that they're getting. It's a very narrow track here with, as you can see, nothing, no grass, no sand, mostly just Armco lining the track. So very tough to race side by side here and get passes done. And somebody there was running out of patience for sure. And as I said, a little salty exchange here in the top split of the Radical Racing Cup. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, a very long track, but short tempers to be sure. I can't even imagine what it'll be like in a few weeks' time when we go to Tsukuba. That'll be a fantastic race. I'm sure these drivers are going to get very upset with each other. But even with the longest track on the calendar, these tempers are fairly frayed with all these drivers. You can tell they're racing each other as hard as they can. That's one great thing about this series. Whether they're running in the top 5, the top 10, the top 15, or running outside the top 20, all these drivers are battling extremely hard. So it's really great to see. And speaking of outside the top 20, Lane has made some kind of mistake. You can see him in the pits on the left-hand side of the screen with these SDK graphics. And meanwhile, that was Jacob Reed with a massive slide there coming out of that corner. That is some very tense stuff for him. He's actually lost some position, so he's fallen outside the top 10. Not sure what happened to Jacob Reed, but he's had a very tough turn of things as of late.
Yeah, and looking backwards, that was a great shot from our producer, Josh. Looking back from Reed's back bumper, you saw that big wiggle, and you saw that Radical laying down those black marks here on the pavement of the Green Hell and a little bit of smoke. And we bring this up every race because it comes up every race. You cannot flog these Radicals for a full sprint race without expecting some tire problems. And we may see rear tire wear rearing its ugly head with May, as we see Taylor Lane there pulling his modified, shall we say, Radical into the pits. Looks like he has stopped and picked up a new rear wing and is back underway. But oh my goodness, and there he is getting loose again, obscured by the, oh no, I'm sorry, that is a replay, my bad. And that is how Lane lost that wing, probably picked up by a tourist there. But holy cow, the non-stop action here, and look at this group. Those cars are probably separated by about 0.7 or 0.8, and really testing themselves and the cars here at Nordschleife.
Well, I think whilst Taylor Lane's rear wing appears on eBay, you can see Matrina Ward right now is running a very hard race. You can see her dicing for position with Anderson. That was pretty close. I thought she was going to try and go for a move around the outside there. That would have been very bold and overly opportunistic. But we've reached the, well, we're past the halfway mark of this race. You can see we're now 3 laps into this 4-lap affair here. Still at a track like this, only a lap and a half remaining is basically nothing at any other track. But at a track like this, there is still plenty of time for all these drivers to claw for position. We're going to, I believe the leaders are going to hit the other massive long straightaway here in the not too distant future, and I think we'll see some more shuffling there as well. We saw on the first round going down that straightaway, it was McHutchinson pulling ahead, then it was Hurrick grabbing the lead the last time by, so we'll see what in the world happens this time. I believe a few seasons ago, I think it was season 3 of 2023, if I'm not mistaken, we saw basically the front 3 crash in the final stage of this race, so fingers crossed that we don't have something like that happen this time by. But with how hard these drivers are racing, it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world to happen. All these drivers claw for position and be in bang with each other. So I think we might see the battle up towards the front heat up, as well as all the battles that we've seen all throughout this field. We're following Jacob Reed. He's managed to successfully claw his way back into the top 10. So pretty good recovery drive from him. He's still having a fantastic day. Today, I believe, is still the highest position gainer of this race, up 9 positions. I'm just looking through my live timing. Leah Anderson's actually up 4, currently running in P8. Very good run for her. Very good run for her. And then Hesterman and Campbell in 17th and 18th. They're up 4 positions as well. So a lot of drivers having some good days, as well as plenty other drivers are having bad ones. Brulin right now -4. You can see Ian May -5. So a lot of drivers having some pretty good, pretty bad races. Ekmer now down 7. So a lot of drivers having some mixed evenings here.
Yeah, and back to the front here, it looks like we've got Herc and Blanco sticking together, but McHutchinson has fallen back. He's got about a second gap in front of him now to Blanco, and he needs to close that down here before the back straight, or he's going to watch Herc and Blanco drive off into the distance. And it is no fun to be on your own on this track where McHutchinson's about to find himself. Those other cars are going to drive away, and with nobody to draft, he's going to be on an island here on the back straight.
Yeah, McHutchinson made some kind of mistake, I believe, going through the second carousel, but that gap certainly isn't insurmountable. Definitely isn't insurmountable between Herc and Blanco. You can see him closing, and as we're going to take the white flag this time by, Blanco's aside. He's not playing Mr. Nice Guy anymore, and he's going for the move, and he has gotten the move done to take the lead of the race. Meanwhile, I'm looking at McHutchinson. I'm looking at the gap to see if that'll close, but you can see Blanco has actually gone back past it. You can see Herc has gone back past Blanco. I believe he might be at risk of losing the position to McHutchinson. Going into this final lap, specifically going on to that straightaway next time by, I gotta wonder who's in the most advantageous position here. Who do you think is going to take the checkered flag here? Because I think all 3 of the drivers up in the top 3 of this race currently stand within a really good shot. Herc right now the leader, just at the fastest lap of the race as well at a 6:19. You called it there, JR. Towards the beginning of this race, they are breaking into the 6:19 barriers. But coming into the last lap of this race, who do you fancy your chances with?
You know, I don't know, Ron, and that was an interesting moment down the back straight between Philip Vandenherk and Rafael Blanco. Blanco gets the pass done initially, and Vandenherk gets him back on the in the Hoffenrad section there under heavy braking coming off the back straight. And did Blanco allow that? Was it a big move by Vandenherk? Because frankly, when we're approaching the last lap here, I don't think you want to be in P1 with Blanco behind you coming down that back straight for the 4th and final time here on this lap, because with that draft, you're a bit of a sitting duck. So it'll be, I hope we get to talk to them after the race. I'm curious whether Blanco realized that he didn't want to be in P1 on the last lap and let Van den Hurk back through. But as it is right now, Van den Hurk, Blanco, and McHutchinson have driven away. And oh, by the way, McHutchinson has reeled this pair back in. He's about 2/10 now back from Blanco, and now he is going to be in the mix at the end. We already saw him get a 2-for-1 using that draft on the back straight, so we'll have to see what unfolds this time.
I think all these drivers have a really good shot. Obviously, you mentioned a great point there about Blanco possibly letting Hurk by, knowing fully well that if you enter that back straightaway with the lead on the last lap of these races, you're not in the best position. Really, 3rd place or even 4th place is in a better position. We've seen some drivers claw back positions like that towards the end of these races, but I think all 3 of these drivers have a good shot. Hurk has dominated this race, took the pole, and managed to lead most of the first lap until he got passed by McHutchinson towards the end of it. But I think Hurk has been the man to, well, I can't really say dominate, but he's led the most amount of time so far this race. But Blanco, he's always been fast towards the end of those races, and he's always never really put anything on the table when it comes to it. He's always been a fairly aggressive driver, not really willing to concede any spots. I think Blanco might be a little bit aggressive towards the end of this, but I gotta wonder if McHutchinson has saved up some of those tires, has saved up that grip to try and close up that gap, really coming through that very long right-hander before you go onto that long back straightaway. That is really the most important corner really in this whole race, going through there the final time. So I think if McHutchinson saved up his stuff, certainly Gordon Marshall isn't, as he has a big slide, but I think if McHutchinson saved up his stuff and has good wear on his tires at the end of this race, I think he might be in a good shot as well. I think all those drivers are within really good chances. You can see Leah Anderson nearly making contact with Marshall there. That was incredibly close.
Yeah, Marshall clearly off pace. He has roasted those rear tires as you saw him keep it out of the barrier. But you heat these tires up once like that, it takes them some time to come back, if they ever do come back. And Ron, I got to share something from our timing tower. I'm looking at Van den Hurk, Blanco, and McHutchinson. They have both set their personal fastest laps in the previous lap. And Van den Hurk is at 19.67. Blanco is a 20.02, and McHutchinson is a 20.06. That is 9/100ths of a second separating the last lap and fastest laps of our top 3 runners. What a fight we're getting here today at the Nordschleife.
This, I think, is going to be an absolute grandstand finish throughout this field. This battle that we're following here right outside the top 10, I think it's really close. You can see them basically being a banger with each other coming through there. That could have been a major moment if they made any sort of contact with it through cleanly. But I think the battle up towards the front is the one that we got focused on, as well as the battle with Lamba and Friedrich. They haven't really battled throughout this race, but they've been fairly close. I say that their gap has actually increased to about 0.7 of a second. But by the time they take the checkered flag, I gotta imagine that'll decrease a little bit. I think what Friedrich might be doing here is trying to give himself a little bit of a gap there, get some clean air on the front end of that radical. The front splitter is so important with these cars, the ground, and getting that arrow on the front of this car is really important. So maybe that's the reason why he's trying to build a little gap between those two so he can go through that corner with the most amount of speed, or he's just used up his stuff too much and is now at risk of falling back. I mean, he's guaranteed a top 5 with the gap that he has with Walters, but it's still going to be pretty close between those two. But this is a battle that we have to keep our eyes on. This is going to be close stuff. This is going to be tense stuff. This is going to be amazing stuff in the next minute.
Yeah, we're coming down to crunch time here. We're just getting through the last little section of the Nordschleife. We may be coming up on little jump region there, whose name I've forgotten. I'm doing my best to memorize these corner names, but with mixed results. But in any event, Hurk, Blanco, and McHutchinson here approaching the back straightaway. They're going to go through the Kleines carousel here, go through this double, triple right-hander at the top of the hill that you see there in front of you. That is a critical corner to get a good exit onto the back straight. And then we're going to see how these 3 cars are going to sort out their differences. It's all going to happen here on the braking zone at the end of the back straight. You see Van den Hurk weaving there, trying to break the draft. Blanco not following yet. Not really sure. Is Vandenberg
Got done.
slowing there? What happened? Vandenberg get a slowdown? Something
Uh,
happened there to Vandenberg, or he got a horrible exit coming onto the back straight. What?
Maybe this is some strategic call. Maybe he's going to try and save up his stuff, but you can see McHutchinson now getting the move done on Blanco. This is some really close stuff, but meanwhile, you can see Herc is closing that gap. You can see he's closing. It's about 3 car lengths between him and Blanco, but the fight right now is between all 3 of these, mainly between McHutchinson and Blanco. We're going to see if anyone tries to go for a move here coming into the final corner. He's not going to be close enough. McHutchinson has the lead.
Yeah, McHutchinson is going to take it. And looks like Friedrich was saving it for Lumba and gave it to him there on the back street. So Friedrich is going to take that P4. And mysterious move by Philip Vandenberg. They're not really sure what's going on. You see Leah Anderson there. Maybe is she getting passed by Reed? Yeah, she was. She was on the back of Marshall there for a while, and looks like Reed got her at the last. So my goodness, an action-packed race. And Ron, what do you think happened with Philip Vandenberg there?
Yeah, I think our producer Josh said that that was a strategic call, and I think I agree, but if he pulled it off a little bit better, I think that would have worked for him. He closed up massively by the time they went on the brakes there, but I think if he did a little bit earlier or tried to pull it off with a bit more proficiency, I think that would have actually worked for him. That was pretty close there by the time they reached the checkered flag, but unfortunately for Philip Vandenberg, his strategy kind of backfires on him. But one storyline that we followed all throughout the race, and we might get by the time we get the results here, as a few of the stragglers are going to cross the finish line here in the next few moments. Jacob Reed finishes P8, up 11 positions from where he started. That's some fantastic stuff for the driver from the UK.
No kidding. That is crazy. And yeah, back to Vandenberg. I guess that makes sense. He let the other drivers through with the intention of ducking back behind, picking up the draft, and maybe getting another twofer like we've seen a couple of at the end of that back straight, and just mistimed it. But you know, I guess I can understand taking the risk. He wasn't going to keep P1 with those cars right behind him anyway, so he had to do something. That's what he chose to do, and it didn't work out this time. But man, what a fantastic race. And you're absolutely right about Jacob Reed. What a drive. Qualifies P19 and fights his way all the way up to P8. That's 11 positions. Looks like he threw down a 6:22.19 as his fastest lap, which is quite quick indeed. And we'll have your final results for you here in a moment. As Ron said, traffic can get a little bit stretched out here. We're still waiting for the last couple of cars to take the checker. This may be our last runner here, Lane, to take the checkered flag, and then we'll have those results for you. And wow, holy cow. So what'd you think of that, Ron? Was it about what you were expecting?
Yeah, that was about what I was expecting. I was expecting some slipstream playing a massive role in this race. We got it, especially on that last lap as McHutchinson took the lead. And I also was expecting some chaos. We saw it at turn 1, and we saw it all throughout this race with drivers spearing off the road, bumping into each other, and spinning each other out. So that was really just about what I was expecting, but that makes it seem like it was bad. That was some brilliant stuff here.
Yeah, that was really some great driving, and can't emphasize it enough, folks. This Radical community is really outstanding, and this is the top split out of 4. So we had some of the best Radical and best esports drivers in the world competing here at the Nordschleife, and you saw the result of it. Very clean race, respectful race, some really great dicing, and really high quality racing here. So again, I would encourage you to pop in and join us for one of these races if you can, with some great tracks coming up. So here are our final results. John McHutchinson lit the wick and got that one done, perhaps due to a strategic blunder, maybe too strong a word by Vandenberg, but he gets the P1. Rafael Blanco will come across in second, Vandenberg third, and whoop, there it went. We had Andreas Friedrich managing to put the move on Lamba there at the end. David J. Walters, Gordon Marshall, Jacob Reed, Leah Anderson, and Martina Ward are going to make up our top 10. And again, Jacob Reed, the hard charger and driver of the day for his performance. Ben Jacobs, Antonio Baril, Shane Stewarts, Robert Woodward, and Mike Ekemir. And we saw him have some problems. He had a couple spins and or offs to kind of get in the way of his success today. Johannes Hesterman, Ian May, Michael During, Daniel Gallus, and Tom Brulin are going to make up the rest of your top 20, and then Taylor Lane and Colin Campbell will be 21 and 22. It looks to me like Campbell might have stuffed it and not taken the green, but there are your results, man. That is a fantastic race. And let me take a quick peek outside in the hall, see if anybody has stopped by to speak with us. And again, folks, as a reminder, if you participate and get a podium in one of these races or just want to stop by and say hey, join our Apex Racing TV server on Discord, and we're happy to have a little chat with you about the race. We are definitely Radical fans and race fans, and we certainly enjoy speaking to the drivers. And Ron, I am not seeing anybody.
I think I might have a theory as to why this happened. So on the Ray Esports broadcast earlier this week, I mentioned how we had a lot of drivers coming in for interviews, and they raided our collection of milk and cookies because Christmas is coming up just in a few days' time. So I think we never restocked, so that could be the reason why no drivers are coming in. All of our snacks are gone, so they're like, you know, I'll just go to the vending machine outside our hall.
You know, as a driver myself, I will vouch for the fact that nothing draws a exhausted, sweaty race car driver like the aroma of freshly baked goods. So we'll have to keep that in mind for next week. So, you know, I think that's about going to wrap us up here for today. And the action is not going to stop here on Friday, though. Next week, we have the S1 Racing League's presentation of GT racing at Hockenheim and a number of other races. We have got racing on Apex Racing TV 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, it seems, at times. So if you would like to catch more action here on Apex Racing TV, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure and check that notification icon to make sure that you don't miss anything coming up. So that is going to do it for today. Round 2 of the Radical Esports Cup. What a fantastic race. The season is looking fantastic. Multiple splits every Friday at 2100 GMT, and there's no place to go but up from here. So please join us next week. And on behalf of myself, J.R. Gregory, my partner Racing Ron Mons, and our producer Joshua Wilkie, thanks for joining us. Happy Friday, and have a fantastic weekend.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.